And welcome to Ask an Expert, brought to you by the Canadian Cancer Society here in Ottawa. My name is Denis de la Violette, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. William Stanford, who is a Canadian Cancer Society funded researcher. He's also the Canadian Research Chair who works here in Ottawa at the Ottawa Hospital Research Institute, and he's also professor at the University of Ottawa. So quite a busy man. So Dr. Stanford, thank you very much for taking the time for being part of our segment today.
My pleasure.
As you know, we've canvassed our social media followers and asked them for questions regarding cancer, whether it be research or prevention or whatever. So you're our expert du jour, so shall we go ahead with the first question?
Certainly.
Absolutely. Here we go. First question is, how can cancerous tumors grow inside someone for many years before they cause noticeable problems?
Well, that's a difficult question because there are multiple answers. One is simply that the immune system can keep it in check. But another answer that is probably due to the origin of the tumor. Tumors arise because of mutations or other changes to the DNA that make the cells grow or differentiate differently or abnormally than they should. And so if a mutation or change to the DNA is such that the cells grow just slightly abnormally, then you're going to get a very mild or low-grade tumor that is going to take a while to manifest into a large enough tumor to be noticed either as a skin tumor or by the patient in some other way. Or it could be a much more aggressive tumor, mutations to genes that could cause the tumor to become very large in a very short period of time. And as tumors grow, they actually can, their DNA is very unstable, and so it's likely for them to get additional mutations. And so that's how a tumor can start off growing very slowly and then suddenly start to become much more aggressive and go from a low-grade tumor to a high-grade tumor.
So every case is different, and it largely depends on the individual involved.
It's true. I mean, there are hundreds of different types of cancers, really. And when we start to think about it, when we start to think about the types of genes that are involved, that number is probably going to go up to thousands of different types of cancers when we really start to think about it.
And that's why so much research is required.
Yes.
Excellent. What are the warning signs of skin cancer?
So that's a great question because skin cancer is the most common type of cancer, but it's also one that can be treated quite readily as long as it's detected early. The one type of cancer we really need to look out for is melanoma, because while it only occurs in 5% of the cases of skin cancer, it's the one that's most deadly. And so in melanoma is actually a cancer of our pigmented cells of our skin, so the melanocytes. So we think of moles or freckles, for example, as pigmented cells. And so if the warning signs for melanoma is really to detect changes in your moles or freckles, or that you have irregular shaped moles and freckles. So first of all, does a mole or freckle, does it get larger over time period? Does it have an irregular shape? It should have a symmetrical shape. Does it have a variation in color within the same mole? Or is it larger than the pencil eraser, for example? That would be another warning sign. There are other types of warning signs for skin cancer as well. For example, if you have a pink rash that hasn't gone away for about 4 weeks, then you should consult a physician about that. Or if you have any freckles or warts or moles that are very sensitive to the touch, that are itchy or very tender, then see a physician as well. And any sores that just don't heal, it's also good to check it out by a physician. And you should check your body from time to time. And when you can't see it in the mirror, ask someone else to help you out.
Absolutely. So there are a lot of variables, but obviously early detection is the key.
Early detection is the key, and it's certainly skin cancer deaths are preventable by early detection.
Great news. Thank you very much. All right, our next question. Now, what does a day in the life of a cancer researcher look like?
Well, I would say cancer research, or any research in general, is not for everyone. It's the hours are generally long, and a lot of the work is monotonous. Actually, the bench work, we do the same types of experiments day in and day out, and we run into a lot of failure. But if the researcher actually plans the experiment correctly with all the controls that they need and performs the experiment correctly, then they will learn from the failure. And that's my job, is to make sure that they're planning their experiments correctly, to learn from learn from each experiment, no matter what happens in the experiment. And so weekends are often spent, at least part of them in the lab. So I would say it's a tough job. But when you make a discovery, when the experiment works, and you're the first person in the world to actually discover something, it's a great feeling, and it's a champagne moment, and that makes up for a lot of the drudgery of the work.
It makes it all worthwhile.
It makes it all worthwhile. For me, I don't do so much bench work anymore, but what I do is I write grants to help fund the research. I edit the papers that my group writes, and I read other people's work, and I peer review their work and their grants as well. And when my family's in bed, I usually turn on my computer and start working all over again until the wee hours of the morning, and then the next day it starts all over.
That's quite a dedication.
You have to be dedicated. I can't imagine fitting what I do in, or anyone, what we all do in a 9-to-5 work day. But it's something that we're passionate about and we love to do. So it makes up for it.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Our next question is, how do you define the different stages of cancer?
So there are some staging systems are for particular types of cancer, but other staging systems are more, universal and can be implemented for many types of cancer. In general, what a staging system looks at is the tissue from which the primary tumor originated, the cell type potentially within the primary tissue. The number of tumors, the size of the tumor, whether or not the lymph node has become involved, whether or not it's spread to the lymph nodes, and whether or not it's spread to other sites of the body as well. And finally, what I've already referred to as a grade, it's a low grade or a high grade, it's usually thought of as whether or not a cancer is well differentiated, like the other cells around it in the tissue. That's a low-grade tumor. And a high-grade tumor would be a very undifferentiated type of cancer, which is not like the other cells around it. And those cells usually grow much more aggressively. Okay,
that's great. And all these are all things to watch for, obviously, and to early detection is also the key here.
Early detection is the key, and this is if a patient is diagnosed, and they will get this type of information from their physician, from their oncologist, and this is really what it all means. And there's lots of resources on the web to dig deeper and to learn more about their cancer and the grading and staging of that.
Excellent, excellent. All right, our final question is, what suggestions for my diet do you have that will reduce the risk of getting cancer?
Well, there's basically a third of cancer. It's believed a third of cancer could be prevented just by living a fit lifestyle, eating well. So I think eating eating well and maintaining a healthy diet is really important. In fact, there's a lot of this information on the Canadian Cancer Society website. So that's quite important. I would also like to point everyone's attention to the Mediterranean diet, simply because there's a clinical study that was just completed that showed that the Mediterranean diet it reduces the incidence of heart disease and stroke, and other studies have also implicated it as a reduced incidence of cancer. So the Mediterranean diet has lots of olive oil rather than butter, and uses lots of nuts, fish, berries, vegetables, beans are quite important in that diet, and those a lot of those foods are also rich in antioxidants, which is also important in the fight against cancer. And so I would say go for eating more of a Mediterranean diet, limiting the amount of processed foods that you ingest, exercising as much as you can, and then enjoying your meal with a glass of wine. That helps as well.
I like that part. So obviously staying in shape, doing all the things that we're told to do all the time, eat well, rest, exercise, stay in shape, these are all the keys to helping you prevent cancer.
That's helping to prevent cancer and heart disease. It works both ways.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Stanford. I know you're a very busy man, and I appreciate you allowing us into your lab here today to ask you some of these questions. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, and that was Ask an Expert, brought to you by the Canadian Cancer Society right here in Ottawa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.